There's quite a story developing in the town of Mount Royal concerning taxes. Hey, Natasha, taxes.
Oh, I love
Yeah, and
taxes.
guess what? Not NDG Côte-de-Neige. This time it's about what's going on in TMR, to the point where our next guest got angry enough to basically bring it up at a council meeting and end up being on the outside looking in. Maya Chammas is a TMR city councillor. She's on the line. Thank you for being here. Look, I think for most Montrealers, getting that tax bill, and we've talked about this in the past few days, is a
I was crying.
is a real eye opener. What's going on at TMR, and what did you bring up that caused all the ruckus?
Well, hello. Thank you both for giving me a platform to share my story and the story of my two other colleagues, Caroline de Calouet and Julie Halls. I'm speaking on behalf of us three. So essentially what happened in December is that the three of us voted against the budget. Although we agreed with the majority of the budget, we've worked extensively on it for days with other councillors. We don't agree with the tax scenario. Historically in TMR, we've never really made a distinction between resident renter and resident owner of a single family home in the budget. Last year, we changed our taxation on the grounds that owners of such buildings operate a business. They can deduct expenses. They must be able to assume a greater share of the city's tax burden. So we changed the coefficient, and that made it so that the tax rate is 33% higher than the tax rate for single family homes. So the tax rate of rental properties was 33% more. At that point, there was assumption that owners of such properties would not pass the full increase to their renters. But now that we have a better understanding that the owners can, in fact, flow through the full impact of municipal taxes to tenants. And after hearing from the many, many residents who came to council, more than once, who wrote to us, who spoke to us, Julie, Caroline, and I felt that it was our duty to address this issue in this year's budget, and specifically to moderate the tax impact on our residents who are renting in those properties. We truly believe it's a municipality's responsibility to adapt to the difficult economic context and not assume that renters are not going to flow through the entire tax rate, the tax increase, apologies.
So you would think that, a party looking at this would feel the same way. You sound like you're kind of the three rebels in this cause, when in fact the administration, you would think, would be looking at this and thinking the same thing. So what was the rationale for saying, no, we don't agree with this, and removing it from caucus because of it?
Well, we've had many different discussions, and a lot of, those discussions in caucus do have to stay confidential. But the premise was, we keep going back to the fact that those owners of rental properties are businesses. They're in corporations, and they're capable of assuming such a tax increase. I get that. But we have to make a distinction between the rental property owners and the residents who are paying for it. It's our duty to be there for residents and to protect residents, especially right now with everything that's going on around us. So we were able to make that distinction, and I don't think that the rest of council was able to make that distinction between the rental properties owners and the tenants who are paying the price.
Okay, so you speak up, you say, no, we're not okay with this. You get ousted from caucus. What does that mean now? Does that now mean that you are not able to participate in these debates or vote on the issues?
So initially, we were two parties that ran in the election, the mayor's party and ours. And in November 2021, 2 years ago, we chose to work together in the same caucus, because that's how it's always been in TMR. All councillors, independent or part of a party, work together. The caucus is like the committee of everything, where we discuss all the files. We get to discuss with different administrators. So we see the files at the beginning stages, at the middle stages, before they get to council. And by kicking us out of caucus, it removes that privilege. We will only be able to see the files when they're part of a resolution at council. So essentially, residents, the town is underrepresented in caucus, because we will not be able to weigh in on all those, big dossiers, because we will only be able to do that in a limited capacity at council. So yes, I still have my vote and my voice and the voice of residents, but to what capacity really?
Okay.
And is it beneficial to the town to silence three councillors who are very well connected to residents and have something to give? We all got involved for community reasons.
So you know that people hearing this, landlords specifically, are trying to say to themselves, well, wait a sec, I've been hit with a giant tax increase. Are you suggesting I not be able to pass it on, or how should I be able to pass it on?
Yeah, well, it's complicated. I also, as a business owner, I also understand that there's stress to own a business, and we're all faced with the economical changes right now, all of us in different ways. And, it's not up to us to really tell them what they should do. It's up to us to think of our residents and to protect them as much as we can. So here we have something that we can control, which is not put the coefficient at the maximum capacity, because legally we could do what we're doing, but we have to put it at the maximum capacity. We just really wanted to moderate that impact, and maybe for it to be felt over 2 years rather than like in one big year. So yeah, I'm focusing more on what I can do as a councillor, what we can do, and what as a town we can do.
Okay.
It's not up to us to tell rental property owners how to rent, process and take care of that increase.
Mm-hmm. And yet there seems to be a fundamental lack of understanding how that is a huge factor in the housing crisis that we're in right now. So what happens next then? I mean, you suggested some sort of compromise, but is it too late? What could happen next, Maya?
I mean, unfortunately, it's too late. We've tried many, many times to bring it forward, and unfortunately, it had led to a very toxic environment in caucus. Every time we pushed for a debate or wanted to ask more questions or discuss something at length rather than in 5-10 minutes, because how can you discuss the major town municipal dossier in 10 minutes? It was always, responded with like tone gets elevated, becomes very toxic. There's a little bit of bullying happening. But yes, we've tried many times to bring it forward, and our last resort was to publicly vote against it because we could not get to them.
Can I just bring up a point, and I'm guessing this sort of fits into the picture. You, as I understand, are the youngest councillor for TMR. Yes. We often talk about how we need younger people to get involved in politics. Here you are, and finding out, oh, wait a sec, I'm just trying to do the right thing for residents, and you get shut down. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Absolutely. I am, in a sense, I'm relieved not to be part of this toxic environment. I don't think we should be accepting such environments in 2024. But at the same time, I'm extremely disappointed for residents because their voices are not going to be as heard as we hope that they would be. For somebody that, is young and interested in community building, I'm sure, that's a slap in the face because, being involved and putting time to be involved in your municipality should be celebrated, and it shouldn't be reprimanded in that way. We could disagree on a lot of things, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of caucus. That's the beauty of a mixed council. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But I refuse to be unanimous at and go with what the mayor wants, so that I can stay in and not be treated that way. So, for people that are getting involved, I want them to still get involved. I don't want them to be, let's say, scared for a lack of better words, to get involved. But yes, it's not an easy route, and that's what's disappointing about it.
Does it sour you on politics in general, or is that just too big a statement to say?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Does it sour you on politics in general? In other words, this is one issue. You're seeing how politics works,
Yeah, I definitely does. Especially that in our case in TMR, it is a part-time job, and I do have a full-time job at the same time, and it does get a lot to manage at times. And so if we had less toxicity, less bullying, and if we valued voices around the table, absolutely it would be a better experience.
Okay.
Especially on a municipal level. Municipal level is supposed to be community. We're working with residents at all times.
It is disappointing. Yeah. I commend you for having the courage to stand up for what you believe in. And I just feel like it's quickly, I should mention that Mayor Peter Maloof says that that basically the three of you have been kicked out because you were delaying, you were not allowing them to make the progress. You're trying to make progress, but you're trying to make progress that represents your citizens' desires. Exactly. And the reality is we all want to move files forward. We all got elected to move things around and to do better, right? But a rigorous analysis is not indecision, as the mayor calls it. It's just proper governance. And we have been asking questions and pushing for debate for the last 2 years. So
That has not changed since the moment we've entered caucus. But what actually changed is us speaking up against the budget. For me, it's quite clear, because if it's just because we're delaying the process and asking too many questions, well, we've been doing our job since the day we got elected.
Maya, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us. As they say, keep up the good fight.
Yes. Thank you very much for giving us a platform.